Hello, digital educator, and welcome to this continuing video for our visible learning strategies for digital instruction series. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite instructional strategies, just because it has so much impact. It is so strong, and it really pulls upon my love and my history and my background in teaching reading, and just something that I completely believe in. And it is so succinct that the Hattie name is the same name that we're going to be using, the same strategy, because it doesn't deviate a whole lot away from what the actual teaching strategy is. We're just putting it in a digital environment. This has a stunning effect size of 0.74, which means it gets about, if used faithfully, it gets about 2 years worth of growth within 1 year, based upon that 0.4 hinge point. So as we talk about reciprocal teaching, this is one of those strategies to add into your toolkit, to be able to round out your toolkit. We find that a lot of these strategies are best used in certain situations with different topics, and you start to get the feeling of when you can pull these strategies out, when they're best used, and how you can best apply them. Now, this strategy here is best for definitely an English ELA class, but also any content area where you have a text that you want kids to read to be able to disseminate information. This is the go-to strategy. Now, normally we either do the lecture thing or we do recorded videos that are part of a blended model. But sometimes there's nothing better than digging deep into a text, especially a source text, to provide information, to disseminate the information that is that you need. And this is the strategy to use then. So it has different levels of comprehension that you get to. It starts with reading the text, and it has the surface level comprehension, but it gets really, really deep into that comprehension and that the implied, the implicit understandings. And it really has the kid think in those higher level blooms, because in the end, they're going to be analyzing, evaluating to be able to do a summary, and they're going to be creating their own questions, analyzing their, again, what is the most important points, to be the teacher as well too. Anytime that we can do this, putting kids into the teacher's role, then is absolutely awesome. Now, when we think about reciprocal, we think about the mathematical term, it means to flip. It isn't necessarily just like the kid becomes the teacher and teaches a lesson. There's a very set program, a very set agenda, a way, steps of doing this protocol. That way it's done with the most effectiveness. And so there is part of it where the kid is kind of like the teacher, but it doesn't mean like, okay, you're gonna make the kid be the teacher, the kid's just gonna go off and do the teacher role. No, that's not it at all. But we're going to have the kids dig deeper. This can work for both our asynchronous and synchronous instruction, not just if you're in person. And it goes through the whole gamut of the entire lesson. This could actually be your entire lesson for the use of text. So what exactly are the steps when it comes to reciprocal teaching? I'll get clipped a little bit there on the left, but we have a text in hand. It could be a textbook, it could be an authentic source text, it could be a digital text that you put kids into in a PDF form. We want for them to first to go through and to preview it. We need to look at things like tables, captions, illustrations, headings, pulling in all this information they know about text, and where they can gather lots of information very quickly, to then make a prediction, to activate inside of their head what this text is going to be about, because we need to activate our prior knowledge of what we know, because all new learning is posited upon old learning. So we need to activate those things we already know about this concept so we can build upon our old stuff. After that point, this is where my interpretation, my version of it can get a little bit different. We have to ask questions and clarify. I prefer those to be switched. I like to use the clarify for vocabulary, especially if we're using a textbook, a high content text that can be very dense with a lot of words the kids may not have seen before. I like to clarify those vocabulary words before we even get started, before they even read. Because the clarifying doesn't just stop when we do the vocabulary, it goes on throughout the reading of the text, and kids should be able to clarify and ask questions that are going on. That's where it gets a little bit muddled, is the ask questions part. I prefer that to be third, and deviating here from the normal procedure. Kids would go through, they'd preview and predict. The teacher would clarify any unknown words that would be provided inside the graphic organizer. Kids would read, and when they get done, they would get on to the last two of asking questions and summarizing. It's the clarifying would be ongoing, by the way, as well too. If you have any questions, you could put questions into the clarifying graphic organizer for the teacher to address. But when we get done, you want the kid to think like a teacher and think, okay, what is the most important part about this text? I'm going to turn those into questions and that have definitive correct and incorrect answers or degrees of correctness answers. But the kids most often aren't prepared to be able to go to that depth of knowledge to think about multiple correct answers for the question. And then finally, getting to summarizing, taking all of what you know about this text and turning it into a summary and posting it so that other kids can see what that summary is going to be. That takes in your analysis and your evaluation and your synthesis, pulling them all into one. You analyze the text, evaluate what is most important, and then you create a new understanding that is condensed down to a smaller package. And then finally, if you want to make this one really fun, once we get into this digital graphic organizer, then you can use this digital graphic organizer to be able to respond to others' questions. So they really are the teachers in that essence, because they have to go through, read other people's questions, people are reading their questions, and answer those questions to see if they make sense or not. And as I said, think of the teacher for the ask questions aspect and have other students answer their posed questions. So it really truly does make the kids the expert. So let's look at this in a Padlet. Are there a number of different graphic organizers that you can use? Absolutely. Could you use Google Slides? Yes. Could you use Google Docs? Absolutely. Padlet's my favorite though, just because of the function of having the posts that look like sticky notes to be able to go up there. You'll notice again that we have making your predictions, clarify, which is where I put a vocabulary word. We click the plus and we could put, let's say the word is invert. Say to make upside down. We can go in, and once this is in here, we can change the color. That way we know it's from the teacher or what it's going to be. So after we get this text passed out, whether it be digital or analog, the kids can then go through and click the plus button. Every single kid would put their prediction inside of this column. One of the things that's great about this using Padlet is if I don't want anyone else to be able to see what the kids are responding, you can require approval for each one of the posts that go up. If you want kids to be able to think about what it is that their peers are thinking, if they're struggling, to be able to look at other people's posts for ideas, for direction and guidance, they can do that as well too. So the clarify would be all of me, the predictions and that would be done before the lesson, I'd say. Predictions would come before the reading. We would do the reading during the reading also. If you need to clarify anything else, the kids can put that inside of here. When we get done, we want the students to ask questions about the text. So these are the questions that are kind of like a mini quiz that they're going to give out to their peers. And then finally, when they get done, they're going to summarize. So again, they can all put their posts inside of this column. If you think ahead and your kids have numbers inside of your class, they're all numbered out and they know their numbers, then what we can do is say, put your student number 1 through 20, whatever it's going to be, in the title of your post. And then you can say things to kids like, now today I want you to take your number, I want you to add 1, and if there's not a student, you go back to the beginning. Shift 1, that way you're going to answer a question that is from the person that is 1 more than you, or 2 more than you, or 1 back, whichever it's going to be. So we're getting to all of these depths, all of these different comprehension strategies that a kid can do and utilize. And the great part is once you learn this reciprocal teaching strategy, you can use it over and over and over and over again. You don't have to teach kids how to do this. You can just tell them we're going to do reciprocal teaching and they can run with the concept. The content then becomes interchangeable. You stick a new content in and then you just do the reciprocal teaching strategy. Has great yield and by far one of the absolute best text reading strategies that you can use, especially when you couple it with digital learning. I hope you'll give it a try.